Hey, welcome to Horns Up. This is Peter, and I'm flying solo on this episode. To all our listeners in India and around the world, I hope you're doing safe and healthy during these crazy times. Earlier this year, in our albums to look forward to in 2021, a unanimous pick that Animesh and I both had was Haunt Beautiful Distraction. The album released earlier this month, so we had to get Trevor William Church back on Horns Up. It's quite a detailed chat, so let's get straight into it. I'm really glad to have on the show today Trevor William Church. Welcome back to Horns Up, Trevor.
What's up, man? How's it going?
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about it. It's been a couple of years since we last spoke, and it's been quite awesome just kind of seeing everything that's happened with Haunt since then. But I have to bring this up front. I mean, we were just talking before this about last year. I mean, it's been a complete shit show all over the world. But I must ask you, I mean, you're someone who, by admission, is someone who thrives in isolation. So
Definitely.
So how did you find last year?
Well, I mean, luckily I got to do a tour. Like a lot of people didn't get to tour. I got to do a full European tour. So I kind of got all of that out of my system. But, I saw a lot of challenges in 2020 myself, not really musically, but I was pushed to the fucking limits on a lot of things. I was having drummer problems, and I decided it was time that I needed to let my drummer go, which is never a fun thing to do. Nobody likes to have to be like, hey man, it's not working out. Sorry, bye. It's never good, but it was like a chain reaction. I fired my drummer, then my guitar player quit, and then my bass player quit, which doesn't really change the dynamic of Haunt's music, because I think everybody kind of knows, like, I write and record almost everything myself and play it. I can play all the instruments, so I don't technically need a band. So I'm lucky in that light, but having the studio here really let me really blossom in 2020. I put a lot of time into practicing and a lot of focus on my productions and my DIY ethos that I've created for myself to avoid making a bad business decision, and usually bad business decisions happen all the time between band and label. That's kind of a normality as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't know very many bands that actually love their record label. I could probably very few. I mean, if you really ask them, they're probably gonna be like, yeah, it's whatever. It's cool. Or, I didn't really have good experiences working with other labels, and some were bad, some were just gray. Like, I was like, this is cool, but how hard is it to be like with the internet and having direct access to your fans at the click of a button? Why do you need all these people anymore? Everybody's connected nowadays. You don't have to have a Rolodex full of numbers that you're scrolling through like 1980, where you're like, hey, all right, where's the M? You're scrolling through to find the last names with M or whatever. And, it was a really good time for me to really kind of reflect on what was all happening and what I needed to do to make Haunt work. I first did the flashback record, which really kind of was this really happened really randomly. I was just like, got home. I wrote a few songs, and boom, the next thing I knew, I had an album. I didn't even really plan on it happening like that, but it was the first album in a while that I had really just like, I was just like, I'm not even going to let anybody in here. I'm not going to and everybody hadn't quit by then either, but it was like everything was already kind of percolating, and I already knew it beforehand. So I kind of went into it knowing like, okay, you're going to put out this record. These guys aren't going to be a part of it. I knew that I was going to fire my drummer. I knew that John was probably going to leave because he had been talking about it for a while. And so I was just like, well, you know what? Like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm just going to do the whole album alone. I'm not even going to tell them what I'm doing. And I just did it. And it was actually the best recording experience I had in Haunt. And it's probably my favorite Haunt record because of that, because I didn't have to teach anybody anything, because it's usually I'm like, I write it and I have to show it to them or teach it to them in some way or shape or form. And I'm not really trying to be the type of artist that like, I'm not really trying to like work on a song for a really long time, because to me, I look at songs like as they're either winners or they're losers, and it's time to move on. Like, you know, when you got a winner because the song you like it. You're like, okay, this song's great. Cool. But you don't know what songs all your fans are going to like. They end up liking the song you disliked. So I have this, I don't leave songs behind ever. Everything I write, I release. I just believe that you just don't know what you got until you put it out there.
True.
So I saw a lot of growth within myself in that, because it kind of allowed me, because for a while there, you know, you start working with people and you start going, well, okay, I kind of do need these people. It really let me realize like, okay, you don't need anybody. You could just do this alone. Granted, I knew it was going to be hard to kind of rebuild a live lineup. It's never an easy task. It wasn't an easy task to begin with, because Haunt was born that way. I had no band. I had records. I had to put a band together. Literally. Like Burst into Flame, when I did Burst into Flame, there was no band. It was literally just like we never played together. There was no rehearsals, nothing. So it was a really weird. Most bands don't start that way.
True.
They usually have some cool ass story. But you know, I think most people that know who I am already know that there's a story before Haunt, Beastmaker. Which was my first, like, kind of like, here's Trevor. And so I kind of had that beforehand, and just realized that being pigeonholed in genres really isn't for me. I don't like that. And I got pigeonholed into doom metal. And I even tried to make it like more melodic and more rhythmic with one of my last releases I did called Eye of the Storm. And all the doom people hated it. It's actually the worst selling Beastmaker record, which is funny, because if you ask Haunt fans, they go, that's my favorite Beastmaker record. So it was like this thing. And that was kind of like, you know, I did a lot of Beastmaker stuff alone, a lot. I did like all the EPs I did alone. So I was already kind of like, man, I could whip these out fast by myself. That was evident. And also I'm pretty old for getting my career going, because I'm going to be 40 years old this year. So, I mean, for me, time is ticking. You know, I'm like, I didn't get to do all the things that I wanted to do, because I worked with people back in the day. I tried to collaborate. I tried having singers. I tried everything on the board. That's why everything that Haunt is why it is that way. Because I'm like, I don't want to work with people, because they slow me down too much. I wasted a decade trying to do stuff with other people, when realistically, I could have done it on my own. It's a weird thing. I mean, it might work for some, it won't work for others, but that's just the scenario for me. And with that, it really helped me during COVID to really have that outlet of being like, all right, well, I could just do whatever I want to do. I could record music, release it, do what I'm going to do. So I did Flashback, and then I re-recorded. I got a bunch of gear. When I did one thing I like to do when I do a release is a lot of the money that I make from the albums, I reinvested in. I'm trying to build like a really nice professional like home studio, like literally like it's a home studio, but the gear I have in here is what you will find in a real studio.
Oh,
you know
cool.
what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
I mean, I have like right here, I have a Neumann U87. That's not a home studio mic.
Yeah, definitely not.
That thing costs more than my first car. So yeah. I mean, it's just one of those scenarios where it's just like, okay, I really do. I love to do the music and I love the process of recording it myself and doing it myself. So I need to have the equipment that the pros do. And so I bought a lot of new stuff with Flashback, and I was like, all right, well, I need to learn how to use this. So I started fucking around, and I was kind of like going in my brain. I'm because a lot of times you'll see me working the merch table or at the merch table or setting up the merch table. And I have these 2 EPs, Luminous Eyes and Mosaic Vision.
Yeah.
And I was getting in my brain, I'm starting to go, okay, you have this goal of putting out all these records. I want to have 20 albums by the time I'm 47, by the way, just to get that out there. Nice. 20 full-length records.
That's a good goal to have.
It's like 2 albums a year. Well, I'm going to retire like at that point. I'm not going to retire from music, but what I'm going to be doing is I want to take a different role, but we'll get to that later. Sure. So with that being said, with the amount of albums I have in my head that I want to do, I'm looking at the merch table, and at this point I only have 3 full lengths and the 2 EPs, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, God damn, there's 5 fucking big ass 12-inch records on here. Yeah. And then there's like 2 different colors. So I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, I don't want it. And I was like, I hate taking EPs, because when you take an EP, I end up having to at least explain a couple times, why is the EP $20? Oh. And I'm like, it's a 12-inch record. It costs the same for a full length as it does an EP.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that.
True.
I wish it was cheaper, but what? It should be. I got to fucking discount it to the point where it's like, there's no money to be made here. How are we supposed to play a show?
True.
You can't you can't keep the lights on without making $1.
Yeah.
It's not all about money. It's more about being able to continue the musical journey. You have to have funds to keep it going. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I should try putting both of these albums together and just do like a whole album of it. And then I did it differently. I used the tuning that I use now in Haunt. I've been playing in C standard for some time now. And so I was like, well, I'm going to write it in different tuning. I'm going to add keys, going to spruce up the solos, and learn how to use this new equipment I got some like analog mastering equipment, which it was like a fucking, like, I had no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, I've never used this piece of equipment ever. I'm not going to record a brand new album and experiment with it. You feel me?
Yeah.
So Triumph was a nice experiment, and it did take me a while. And again, COVID, it really gave me a lot of time to work on my production. It gave me good time. And again, I mean, not everybody does well isolated like that, but for me, I was challenging myself. I was putting myself to the limits of, okay, well, you got to figure out how to use this stuff. You got to figure out how you want it to sound. And you're going to be writing a new record eventually, and you're going to be using this shit. So figure the fucking shit out, because you just spent like $4,000 on this shit. So you better fucking figure it out. So I did. Anyway, it's been a really productive year, 2020. I really dove into some marketing, and I also experimented with another thing where I didn't want to put my music on Spotify. I didn't put Flashback on there on purpose. It was I did it for one reason. I wanted to really see, because you have to, like, I'm kind of always going to be the anti-establishment, anti-industry. I am anti. I don't like it. I don't like being, I'm an only child. I'm also I'm a Leo sign, which basically kind of makes me a natural born leader in some sense, because I just really have a vision and I have a lot of drive. So I could steer a ship and make it hit land. With the Spotify thing, I was being told by people in the industry that people don't buy albums anymore. People don't digitally download albums anymore. Yada, yada, yada. You need to do this. You need to focus it. You got to get it out here. And you know what? I was like, well, you know what? Fuck you and fuck that. I didn't say that to them personally. This is in my brain. I'm like, I don't fucking care what you say. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fucking not do what you say, and I'm going to see what happens. And if I'm right, when you fucking come at me with that shit again, I'll fucking show you logistically how wrong you are. And it worked. Yeah. Flashback was an utter success as far as digital downloads go. The most digital downloads I've ever gotten from an album.
Wow, that's really great to know. I mean,
so like, if people want to listen to it and they can't get it for free, they'll buy it.
Yeah. And, you know, I must at this point also say that, and we were talking earlier about, right? I mean, one thing about Haunt is the fans, and the fact that the fans know that, you know, you have like a personal touch in there. So you were talking earlier about actually packing the orders and all of that. But having said that, something just to switch gears towards Beautiful Distraction, I don't know how I missed this Facebook Live, but 4 of the songs on Beautiful Distraction were actually picked by fans. So what was that experience like? I mean, did you expect the response that you got?
Well, I have a lot of riffs, and I had some songs that I wasn't so thrilled with, and I just kind of wanted to see what everybody thought about it. And it kind of pushed me, because I was like, here's this, what do you guys think of this? Like, oh, this riff's great, that I don't like that. And I was like, that's the part I don't like. And they're like, fix it. And I was like, I'll be back tomorrow and it'll be fixed. The next thing you know, I had 4 songs written in like less than 5 days. I love my fans. I think my fans really know that, like, I'm not your average rock and roll guy. I'm not too cool for school. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how you dress. You like to rock. I like to rock. We're the same. Now, I also love to hear their opinions and things and see what they think about stuff sometimes. Why not? They're buying it. It's like, hey, do you like this fucking song? You like this riff? Yeah, cool. Well, I'm going to make it happen right now. Like, why not? You know, it's never been done. It's, you know, and it's interesting that you bring it up, because out of all the interviews that I've been doing and stuff, nobody's really been tapping that. And it's kind of, I feel like it kind of got forgotten a little bit, but yeah, it's like an interactive record, because I did those songs with the fans' feedback and let them choose the riffs that I was like shooting at them. I'm like, but what happened? There's a reason why it ended at 4, because every time I showed them a riff, they're like, that's good. I showed them the riff. The next thing, that's good. So there was never one they didn't like.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, this could go on forever.
Yeah.
At this
you could make like a double album at that.
Yeah.
point.
No, I just felt like at that point, I was like, well, I'm going to be kicking a dead horse here in a second with this, because every time I show them something, they're going to be like, yeah, I like that. So I stopped, and I wrote a couple others, and then, but anyway, to answer that question, it was really great. And it got me to, I think it really, when you get those connections with the people that like your music, you're building this never ending bond. And I hope to have my fans forever. I was like actually thinking today how rad it would be if I could just have all of my fans at one show. And it's just like this big ass, like we all eat, we have like, you know, we all can hang out. Like there could be all kinds of, it's basically a festival, but a festival of Haunt fans. Yeah, a Haunt festival. And it's just one day, I only have to play one show a year. Everybody awesome. Comes out. Everybody comes out. We all hang out. It could be all day. I don't give a fuck. But I was like, I love to interact with the people that listen to my music. And it was a great experience, and I don't think a lot of bands could ever do that. Will I do it again? Probably not. Not because I don't want to, but because, again, like what happened, it's just like I show them one thing and it's like, yep, show them next, yep, show them next, yep. So I just feel like whatever riff I choose, they're gonna like. So it's kind of it was fun for what it was. And I hope the people that were there for it, they could look back upon it fondly and be like, yeah, that was cool. That was different.
Yeah.
Never had a dude be like, hey, what do you think? You know?
No, I mean, I'm sure looking back, this is a special record to all of those who were there. Yeah. So since you said that, now here's two fans' opinion here, and I'm throwing it out there to you. Upon listening to the album right now, it's a solid 10-song album. But one of the things we felt was it's not as hard-hitting as your previous releases. And I think, with a band whose discography like yours, there's always going to be, that first album you heard or the first song. Would you agree or disagree with us? And tell us why we're
hard-hitting
wrong.
In what way? What do you mean hard-hitting? Explain that better.
I would say, at this point, maybe it's probably because I've not spent as much time on this album compared to the others. I must say that when I first heard, say, whether it was If Icarus Could Fly or Luminous Eyes and all of that, it just kind of grabs you in there. And I think that's where one of those factors, I would say.
I honestly, I don't for me as the songwriter, I have these formulas that I create, and they're realistically they all live in the same bubble. So anybody that would say that I could just literally say that people don't know what they're talking about, because I use certain chord progressions, and that's what I use. I have a certain singing style. That's what I use. I use these things. It's not, because I could say that for a fact, Sea of Dreams is probably faster and heavier than every Haunt song ever written. There isn't one faster. And I know that because when I go to the beats per minute of it, it is the fastest song I have. So as far as maybe that, I don't know. I mean, again, it's critiquing music is very opinionative. And when you ask an artist of what they think of it, I have people, it's always like this. It's always like this. You're always going to have the people that think it wasn't better than the last record, or you're going to have the people that are like, this is your best album you've ever written. So again, that's why I don't leave songs, there's no song left behind, because you're going to get opinions all over the place. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. That age-old saying. So you could just go like this. It's going to always be two-sided. You're going to have there's going to be the people that never heard me before, and this is the first album they heard, and they're like, this is awesome. And then they might go back and not like the earlier stuff. There's a lot of there's a big spectrum of critiquing, so to speak. So I think with Beautiful Distraction, like I said, has a really fast, I think Sea of Dreams, but I had already previously written that song, is pretty gnarly. I could barely play it live. It's hard. It's wow. The hardest song. It's the hardest song I have to play. I can barely do it. We've tried to do it at rehearsals a few times, and I'm just like, this is really a tough one. And I play guitar and sing at the same time. So
yeah, which is not easy.
So I always have a difference. When people talk about things that I do, they don't realize I do this certain way because the way that I picked my sound was so that I could do it.
True.
Because there's all kinds of singing shit that I could do that I don't do because I don't have time to breathe. I'm playing guitar. So you try, it's like fucking running and reading a book at the same time. You're you're fucking hauling out, this shit's, you're gonna be like, fuck, man, after about, like, you could probably run that mile and not even sweat, but you run that mile with a book in front of you, now you're sweating.
Yeah.
You're sweating balls. You're all over the place. So anyway, I don't know. The reviews were really good. So again, like, from what you're saying, it's not as hard hitting. I don't really know what that really means. So you're saying the songs aren't as good? Just give it to me.
No,
because it's easier for me to answer a question that's not so, like, to me, like, hard hitting. I don't know what that exactly means, because I could literally reference each song to another song that has, like, kind of the same writing structure. Because I have a formula. I have a formula of things I do. So, like, say for, like, Beautiful Distraction, for instance, the song, the arpeggio style guitar riff, that's the guitar riff. Now you go back to Mind Freeze, you have Voyager. That's the guitar riff. They're living the same world.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
And then I could do that with every song. So for when people, like, are going to say stuff like that, I'm like, well, you don't know exactly where that's coming from when you say something like that to me, because I could be like, well, it's basically this song. They live in the same world. Now, whatever that might be, that's about as far as I could really dive into about that, because for me, it has I think In Our Dreams, the song In Our Dreams that's on Beautiful Distraction, is one of the best haunt songs ever, personally. Like, for me, when I look at that song as, like, something that's recorded, I only have a couple songs that I like on each record, like maybe 2 per record, maybe 3, that I absolutely, when I look back, I go, I did a good job. The others, sometimes I'm just like, no. Like, everybody loves Burst in a Flame except for me. Like, I am like,
really?
Wow. Yeah, I can't even like, when we practice Burst in a Flame, I don't even want to play it. I'm like, I've already played the song. I played it a million times. I need to be challenged. And the way I was writing back then, I'll give you an example of why. Just so you can understand where I'm coming from. The chorus is weak. It has a very, very basic chorus that I don't even really think is that catchy. The song has one major strength, and I played off this many times. I use a similar hammer-on in a lot of songs I write. The verse of Burst in the Flame is really good. No one could take me off my throat. That's it. That's the hook of the song. The chorus sucks. And I could go down the line of, and really, I'm the worst critic. Like everybody else that critiques me, I don't really care. You guys have no idea what I do to myself. It's like a whole other fucking world of critiquing. I'm just like, I'll nitpick myself to death. And I've nitpicked that record hard. And those are things I always look at how I'm writing, and I try to grow from that to write better parts. So I don't know if it's not as hard hitting, it's just not as hard hitting. You can't, there's a saying, you cannot win them all.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough. And I appreciate, and like I mentioned earlier, right, it probably also the fact, like you said, for a lot of people, it's the first album that they hear and they love it. Or for some of them, it's there. So you're never going to win all of them.
You never, ever.
So staying on Beautiful Distraction, the album features Philly Bibiano. I hope I got his name right.
Yes.
From Fortress on lead guitar. How did he become part of the album?
Well, I had worked with Philly with his band Fortress. Haunt did a split with them, and he and I became friends. We did a little mini tour together, And I think he and I in the studio, like, we just we had fun and became friends. And I was like, well, I don't want to have to do all the soloing on this. And he was the first person that I thought of because he's somebody that I look up to personally. I think he's great. And so I wanted to include somebody that I really liked. And, and not a lot of bands, not a lot of projects could do that, where I could just be like, all right, I'm going to just have him on one record, right? Because he lives in LA. I would love to have him in Haunt. Like, he was going to be, we had talked, and he was going to be the touring guitarist if I couldn't find anybody.
Yeah.
Because obviously you need a local guitar. You need somebody that lives in the same town to be in your band.
Yeah, fair enough.
So he lives like 4 hours away. But he's just a really good guitar player. He's a really good songwriter. And like I said, I just looked up to him a lot. And I think he did the best solos on a Haunt record I've ever heard personally.
Yeah. And so what was the strategy, or what was the thing going into, like, since, you write all the music, did you have some kind of guidelines for him, or you just, considering the relationship you had with him, you were like, here's the music, do your thing?
Very, very, very little had to be said. Very little. Right. I think there was only a couple solos he did that I didn't like. And I'm not the type that's going to ever, like, you could say it how it is and tell me how it is. And it's like, I'm just that kind of person. And if there was something that I didn't like about a part or something, I'd be like, hey, do this here. So I did give him some insight on a couple things. Like, we've always kind of done like these dual solos within the solo where we harmonize in the solo.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really doing that. And I was like, hey, go back and make it so like there's a harmony that's going out of here, so it sounds way gnarlier.
Correct. Yeah.
And you don't hear that in Fortress. If you go back and listen to Fortress records, he doesn't do like a dual harmony solo. And you could do that in Haunt because you have two lead guitar players. So that's kind of the beauty behind that, is like in his mind, he's like, I'm only guitar player, so I'm not really going to do a lot of that stuff. So he kind of went into it with his own thing. And I kind of brought, that idea to him of like, all right, right here at this end, play the harmony notes to that. That's the dual part that goes back into the verse. And that was about the only real conversations we had about it. It was done in 2 days. He had everything done basically. The day that I talked to him about it, he started working on it like that night and started sending me stuff out. And even though I was like, yeah, you got like a month, dude, don't worry about it, it was already done. Like, he jumped on it, and he fucking rules, man. That guy is a great guitar player. And if Fortress can get going and get some luck behind them, they could be a seriously great band.
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, I can, and especially in a place like LA, right? That doesn't make it easier.
Anywhere. No, it's anywhere. Any guitar oriented music is a struggle.
Yeah,
it's not the most popular music anymore.
Yeah,
you got country, you got trap, rap, and electronic music. That is like all up at this, the front. And in modern country music, guitar is like not. You can barely even tell the guitar is there. A lot of the times, like, I'm like, it's not like heavy guitar. So heavy guitar oriented music, you're going to struggle to make a living doing it, is what I'm getting at. They're not going to struggle to make good records. They're going to put out great records. It's just that the world might not hear them all. You know what I mean? Because how do you get 16-year-olds to listen to heavy metal? Unless their parents are heavy metal now.
True. Yeah.
Like back in the day, it was you didn't have the internet, you didn't have YouTube, so it was like the influences that you would have. You didn't have all kinds of options. It was like, oh, I hang out with people that listen to punk, and then it just gets you're into it. Like, it's just natural flow.
Yeah, the progression.
And since my wife's a school teacher, and my best friend has teenage girls now, and you look at what's popular now compared to what was popular back then, it's changed a lot.
Yeah. And I think the discovery has changed a lot. Uh, I want to switch things quickly to the business side of things. Are you okay talking about the business ballpark
Yeah,
figures? Is that cool?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one of the things you talked about earlier was, you've got very involved with the production and you're doing everything DIY, right? So
Yeah.
just for our listeners to kind of make them understand, how much does it really cost to put out an album, these days? I mean, we're talking studio time, artwork, just logistics, the whole deal.
Well, I it's hard to answer the first part of it because the studio stuff, I couldn't really give you a realistic number because again, they're like albums are recorded in really weird places. A lot of people have home studios like this and they charge or whatever. So the price range of the recording could go a lot of ways, but I could tell you what record labels are offering bands for the full length record, what they think the studio time should cost.
Sure.
Is most like indie metal labels, like $2,500 would be the budget to go record an album. So I don't think that could be done personally. That's why I don't go that route, because I need to spend a lot more time. The one thing that I get to do, the one thing that I do get to do is I get to spend 4 to 6 weeks playing it every day. I don't have to like be, if we were racking up studio time, I mean, when I'm working on an album, I'm there. I come out here at 7 a.m. and I don't leave until I can't keep my eyes open and looking at a screen anymore. That's how I work. And so that could be really questionable because a lot of bands do, especially in metal, there's a lot of bands that record their demos themselves. So you could take that. So in answering that first section, because that's the first thing that you have to do in the business is you have to have a product. That product is the album. And so to record an album from home, you're going to need like that $2,500 that label is going to give you actually could buy you a home setup and you can start from there. Whether you're going to program your drums or do live drums and have, you could use really cheap mics and still put out something decent. You can have somebody else mix it and master it. That is at a professional studio or whatever. You just, there's all kinds of ways to do that. So I would say though that the initial investment regardless should just be like $5,000. Like either you're spending $5,000 at a studio or you're spending $5,000 in your studio. That's a good way to answer that, right? Like you need $5,000 to do an album.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Yeah. Like, and that's why I was kind of surprised when you said 2,500, because I was like,
labels, that's what they offer bands that. I know this for a fact too. Yeah. So I'm not going to say who does that, but that's a reality.
Yeah.
A good label will give you $5,000.
Sure.
So $5,000 on the if they really think you're going to be able to sell your record. But a lot of indie labels have a lot of bands that don't really like emerge ever. So it's a big risk for them to spend that kind of capital. So anyway, so the next part, what would be the next part of that would be the art. Again, depending if you're having a painting done or you're having graphic design work done, I mean, you should be at least $700 is what you should spend minimum. You need the layouts. You need it to look all pro. So so you're at $5,700 now.
And this is all before, and this is all before like you even have the actual product ready, right? The vinyl, CD, cassette.
Yeah, you haven't made anything. There's no product yet. You only have the album. The album's done now for $5,000. And now you're looking at art. The art's going to cost you a minimum $700 if you're lucky, because that we're talking about layouts for it too, which is the template needed to manufacture the covers.
Yeah.
So you should already be looking at a budget of $700 just so you could get all the things you need. And also in that $700 or wherever you're going with it, you're going to need your social media marketing tools. So you're going to need your mock-up art of like CD, all in your banners here, logos here, record, 3-color vinyl, CD, t-shirt, and then cassette, and then whatever else that's out now, whatever.
Yeah.
So a $700 art budget, and that's on the low side. I would say like it's probably going to realistically be more around $1,000 to $1,500 for all that, but it's a good starting point. You know, if you're spending $700, you're serious, and your cover is going to look good.
Okay.
You're not going to get it. You're not going to get a shitty anything. $700 should be able to get you something reasonable, and that looks good. The next part that you have to do is you're going to make CDs. So you got to find somebody that manufactures CDs that you're going to use. In America, there's CD Baby. I know a lot of people use CD Baby because it automatically also uploads everything to Spotify and all that for like $70 or something like that. Yeah, it does commercial digital. I think with the CD release, you know, you're going to make 1,000 CDs minimum. 1,000 CDs is going to cost you about, in Europe, I get mine made in Europe. So I use a company called X Vinyl X.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And it could range from about 80 cents to $1.50 a CD per unit without shipping it to the United States. You ship it to the United States, you add a couple bucks to each CD.
Yeah.
So and most people will generally find a CD costs about $3.50. If you start looking at like making CDs, this isn't like information people can't find out because there's CD Baby and all these places that do it online. So you could just go find out yourself what these things cost really easily by researching, I'm going to make a CD, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's about roughly how much you should be spending anyway. It's about $3.50 for a CD, which is, you make a little bit of money off that. You double your money. You got to always remember there's going to be somebody taking it from you. So you have Bandcamp, for instance. They're going to take, if you haven't sold $5,000 worth of stuff, they have a 15% tier. After you sell $5,000 worth of stuff, it goes down to 10, and it always stays at 10. So it's always at 10%. So you buy a CD for $10 already right off the bat. PayPal has gotten some of that.
A certain percentage.
They do. PayPal is 4%. If they buy it with you could have the option with Bandcamp now that you could buy it with a credit card. And I think with the credit card, there isn't a processing fee, but I'm not 100% on that. I need to look at my stuff. But this is new. They just started doing that about 3 months ago. So it's very new to the platform, and I haven't really looked at it. I just noticed I was getting paid way differently from them. I was not getting all these individualized things. It was just like one lump sum, and I was like, oh boy, what does this mean? You know, like
I noticed that. I noticed that
you can't refund orders the same either anymore. So I used to be able to click refund, and it was really easy to figure out, because sometimes say you run out of one item and you need to refund them for one thing, you were able to go to that transaction and look up like what they actually paid for it. Now there's nothing. It's just one big price. They're like, how much did they pay for shipping for this? Because there's combined shipping. You know, it's fucking shitty. I don't like it. And I already yelled at them a little bit about that. But anyway, back to manufacturing. So there's one big thing about making vinyl records that you need to have a little bit of understanding about what type of things happen with a vinyl record. There's two different ways to make a vinyl record: lacquer and metal. So there's two completely different plates that press these vinyls together. If you want lacquer, you're gonna spend a lot more money. You're gonna have to always test. You're gonna have to do a test pressing because you need to hear it, because it's sonically way different than the master recordings that you have.
Yeah,
they kind of have their own realm of things. Certain frequencies, 16,000 kilohertz has to be cut. 37 hertz has to be cut. I believe it has to be somewhere at negative 10 dB area maybe even lower. I can't remember because I've only done that once, and the process, I hated it. I didn't like doing that way.
And I think that it's hand done, right? Each record is kind of done on their own. So it's a complete
it's a completely different process. So I found that I like the Metal Masters better because you could avoid a lot of headache. And that's one thing when you're doing it alone, is you don't want it, you don't have time to wait trying to get a lot done and a little bit of time alone. So I suggest metal mastering. Just be one, it's way cheaper. You don't technically need a test pressing for it, because even if you check out the specs of metal mastering, 1 out of 1,000 records might have a skip. Out of 1,000. That is not a very big percentage.
Yeah, true.
So to me, if that record has a skip and somebody gets the skipped record, you just send them a record.
Yeah.
And you send them the next one. That way you don't have to go through pain. And test pressing is expensive and also adds 2 weeks to a month to the production. And mind you, if you're doing lacquer, you have to do that. It's recommended to get a test pressing. With metal mastering, they could say you don't need one, but here's the percentage of them that might be bad. You might get a bad record in there that has a skip. 1. And to me, that just really bypasses a lot. And also with metal mastering, the way that it's mastered to get cut onto the plate, it goes through a software that automatically eliminates any frequency that would cause a skip. So it has already been ran through a mastering software that's like, all right, it just shaves everything that doesn't work. So you're good. So that's a great thing about vinyl, is the options you have, because you can do a lot of different things. Now with the lacquer stuff, there's going to be a lot more dynamic in your stereo system. If you have high fidelity, you're going to be able to really EQ it and get a big, wonderful, clear sound that is supposedly much more warm and open. But I've never been able to really tell the difference. So when you can't tell, I can't tell you this. The one thing I can tell is that it's more pain in the ass to do a lacquer than it was to metal master. That was the certainty. The sonics, I couldn't tell you. You could put a lacquer master on and a metal master, and I wouldn't know which one. I wouldn't be able to fucking tell you.
I think so. Here's the challenge for all the audiophiles, right? Well, tuning in, like, if you can tell the difference, like, hit up Trevor, hit us up, let us know.
I mean, it's like, most of the world is going to stream your music from a phone or like on a computer, and if they're going to stream it from their phone to their car, or they're going to have it digitally downloaded to a phone in the car, because most people spend the most of their time listening to music in their cars. I think if you look at the ratio of car listening to home listening, you're going to find that in the car, you always listen to music. At home, you're not always listening to music.
Yeah.
But we all have our little traditions of, I'm going to listen to some music at home. And when I do that, I don't even care it could be I just bring a Bluetooth radio with me, because I listen to music when I clean, when I'm doing chores.
Yeah, I think that's same here.
And I'm like, boom, that shit just puts me in. I could clean all day with a good record.
Yeah.
I get in the zone. I'm like, I start feeling it too. It's my favorite time. So I have my times. And even then, you can't really bring a record player around into the bathroom, because all y'all motherfuckers out there, you're cleaning your shower one day or another. You're gonna have mold in your shower, and you have to clean it. And when you go into your bathroom to clean, your record player isn't gonna make it. It's not gonna make it into the bathroom. So you're gonna be like, I suggest a Bluetooth stereo for that. But I don't know. Again, it's like one of those things where it's a matter of opinion again of what sounds better sonically. But with records, let's just get to a price. I'll give everybody a ballpark figure of what you're going to spend. 1,000 records is probably going to cost you somewhere. I mean, again, if you're in Europe, like it's really cheap. It's only about $5.50 to $6 a record, but you got to factor in shipping, and then sometimes certain colors cost more, and all those things. So I would say in your budget, you should always try to budget about $8 a record for vinyl. So 1,000 records will cost you $8,000 roughly.
Okay.
Which is good. I mean, and again, the price, the way that it's priced is you're like a normal business.
True.
They jack everything up 75 to 80%.
Yeah.
It's very typical.
One thing we didn't touch upon as yet is, you've got the music ready, you've got the product, but how do you actually get it out? I mean, the PR, the marketing and all of that. And as somebody who's kind of doing it all by yourself.
Well, you usually hire somebody to do your press for you. So that's what you got to do. You don't do that shit yourself, because press release people, they're good because they have an email list that it just goes automatically to. They write something up about the album with a link to the album, yada, yada, and it just goes out to their people. That's your press, really. Your marketing is just like, you're realistically at that point is you're just looking at ad placement. So you got to create an ad, and that I feel a lot of bands don't do, and they should do. I think putting ads in magazines is a smart way to get known, even by the magazine itself, because they're like, oh, what's this? Because these guys.
I saw that you had done one in a magazine recently. I think I just saw it online that you'd put up.
I did it with Decibel.
Yeah.
I work with them a lot because they're like one of the bigger heavy metal magazines in the United States.
Yeah.
And I've had ads for Haunt in a lot of magazines. We've done ads. We've always placed ads somewhere. And it's an important thing. It's an important part of the process, because these are industry people. Heavy metal magazines sponsor tours. They do a lot of stuff. They're really connected. And also it's really important to support these magazines, like bands and labels. We've put money into these people so that they can, get the music out there. It's a 360 degree fucking constant circle of, like, here, the money goes here, it goes around and comes back. It's just, that's business. And you got to market yourself a little bit. You have to put it so it's in the market. If you don't have anything on the market, like, you're not marketing. The marketing is like putting it into people's hands. There's Facebook marketing too. Obviously, you can boost your posts and stuff like that to help. There's so many ways. Obviously, like something that's really easy now to do is the lyric video. It's like so easy. Somebody just uses your graphic and makes it come to life and has karaoke on it. It's fucking fantastic. I think that's one of the coolest things that's out right now. It's like, I love watching those, because I actually like to like read the lyrics.
yeah. For those
I think that it's karaoke.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't like a little karaoke? You know what I mean? Like, you're never gonna go wrong with that. Like, because otherwise you got to get the lyric book out.
Yeah.
Or you're really trying to memorize the song. You're like, I'm memorizing these lyrics. I'm gonna get them. Who knows? It's pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, I would look at where you are globally though, and flex your muscle there. Like, you're in Mumbai. I don't know if there's a heavy metal magazine there.
Unfortunately, no.
There's none. There's not even a zine. Nobody makes zines. You know what a zine is?
Yeah. I used to make one back in the day. None.
Okay, so you've made them.
Yeah.
But so people are interested. Well, okay. Well, then that's kind of an interesting thing, because I guess there's going to be those places where you, maybe the reach is elsewhere, and I would, in that light, then I would focus on the most populated places, and I would start with the United States because heavy metal is pretty big here, and obviously Europe. So you just focus on those two places, I guess. Now I know that I will never have marketing in India other than a podcast. Like, there's no fucking heavy metal magazines over there. It's like, how do you get known in India? And it's interesting because I used to talk to a band from India, and I can't remember their names right now.
Night.
But the
I
band's
think you're
called
talking
Night.
about Night. Yeah, Shuba is a good friend of mine.
Shuba, yes. I used to talk to him a lot. I don't know if he would even remember, because I barely remember now because it was a while ago. I haven't seen anything new of them. But when Shiba had just put out that Night EP, I really liked it. I was like, dude, this is cool. I like India metal.
Yeah,
I really liked it a lot. And I hope he's still doing music.
I'm gonna hit him up. I'm gonna hit him up after this. It's been a while since we spoke, but definitely I'm gonna tell him that Trevor is checking up on you.
Yeah, man. Like anyway, I used to talk to him about coming out to India. I was like, man, it'd be a dream come true to go there. I would just really love to go. The architecture and I know it's a pretty busy place.
Not anymore. It's like dead. Everyone's
dead. I need to come to India right now. Then it's dead now. But anyway, I mean, marketing is just one of those things. You just gotta. I think it's more about just putting together a budget for yourself. And I'm just gonna say one thing about one kind of motivational thing to tell people is like always invest in yourself. There is no look at the music that you're trying to do and be like, man, I'm just going to invest into myself. I'm going to put some money into this. Like I might make some money back. It's called venture capitalism, really. I mean, it's like, you're not, you gotta take some risk with your money. You're never going to know if you'll make any off of it. And you never know, you might hit a nerve and people really like it. And then in the next, if you didn't put that money in to get your name spread around, you'll never know. So an album, I would say you need about 15 to 20 grand to do a record.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
In a way that it's gonna actually mean something.
Yeah.
Not just okay, we play local town shows, we might do 1 week tour. Okay. You're trying to make some moves. You need 15 to 20 grand.
Okay.
Minimum.
Fair enough. Okay. So, we've talked about the music. We've talked about the business. Let's play a track from Beautiful Distraction. Which one should we play and why?
Well, right now, I was really liking Fortune's Wheel, mainly because it has that song was like a scrapped song. I didn't like the chorus that I had. It was one of the fan interactive ones, and we already were talking about that one. So In Our Dreams was not. Wow. I wrote that. That was not part of the interaction, which is In Our Dreams is my favorite song on the album. But I think right now I've been looking at Fortune's Wheel a lot more now, and I'm like, has a really cool solo section with I do the first solo, which is kind of laid back, and then Philly comes in with this really cool solo at the end, and it's just a kind of a different style song, and I've been liking the I don't really have many like it. Let's put it that way. Remember I told you I have these things that I do that I kind of formulaically bounce around with.
Yeah.
Well, Fortune's Wheel is one of the ones that I could honestly say does not.
Okay.
So let's listen to that one.
Awesome. Okay. We'll cue that one up.
Falling down too many times.
Here's something different. I mean,
Sure.
one thing I came across, right, was Francis Robert, who's part of the band Old Man Wizard and King Gorm. And I only recently found out he also performed on some on the tracks for Triumph. So he did a
Yeah.
cover of Frozen in Time. Uh,
Yeah.
was that the first time like someone did like a cover and sent it? And how did you kind of like go ahead to now
He
having?
did well. First off, Francis is like a really good friend of mine, so it's like it's kind of a little bit different scenario. We met, I think, in 2016. Beastmaker played a show in San Diego. Old Man Wizard played, and I remember briefly meeting him that night. We didn't really talk, but we did a little bit of I was like, hey man, I really like your band, and we talked for a little bit like that, but we ended up being on tour, and they were in the same town. We were in Seattle, and he came out to that, and I was like, oh, Robert, Francis. Just so happens like we start playing in San Diego more, and I start coming, I start seeing him more. We just became just naturally, it just kind of happened. And it really started happening when we started like crashing there when we play shows, always ending up at Francis's house after the gig to hang out. Like there's other bands that we know there, like Great Electric Quest. My friend Tyler is the singer of that band, and he's out in the Southern California area, and him and Francis are also friends too. So it all works out. We all kind of, we don't get like, it's not like raging. We just like hang out on the porch and talk about stuff and hang out. But Francis is really, really talented. And the first thing he did this cover of Luminous Eyes. So he actually did one of Luminous Eyes, and you can find it on YouTube as well.
Okay.
And anyway, he did a cover of it and did his style, the synth style. And when it came time to do the Triumph record, I had already written all the keyboard parts, but I was having really like a hard time kind of deciding what I wanted those to sound like. And so I sent it all the stuff that I like wrote. I sent it to Francis. I keep wanting to call him Roberts for some reason. Anyways, I sent it to Francis. Sorry, Francis, if you end up seeing this or hearing this, I mean. Anyway, he orchestrated the tones for me on that one and picked them out. I was struggling a little bit with it. I was probably struggling with it because the songs were I had already done them previously. It was the Luminous Eyes and Mosaic Vision all put into one record. So it was a little bit of a challenge in that light. I was like, fuck, man, like I just wasn't there. He came to the rescue and he came up with all the, what's interesting about it is I ended up using his stuff and my stuff. So when
nice.
you actually are hearing it, it's like, I don't know what it was. It's really weird how the universe collided, because I didn't really like what I had until he sent me what he did, and I put them together.
And
then I was like, whoa, this is cool. This is weird. Like, I like this. So that's what ended up happening with that. And then Francis is again, like I said, I actually released the King Gorm album on Church Recordings. He's the only vinyl that came out for King Gorm I pressed for him.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of his. I love Old Man Wizard. His album Sorcerer is like a masterpiece. It's the most underrated album. It should be way up there. I think it's it's a classic for me. I hold it high. Anyway, he was on the fan club page. There's a Facebook community, Haunt Fan Club.
Yeah.
If anybody wanted to look into that and join it, it's very interactive. It's like a music community. So there is and I am the one that has all the rules. I like the rules that must be followed are this. There's no gatekeeping, and just no bullshit, no political stuff. I don't want to hear any of it. We're here to talk about music and things or things haunt related. Like you could share your band, you could do whatever, or you know, like all that stuff is fine. It's not like all only haunt. We share music together, like bands we like or whatever, clothes, even. Like it just is, you know, it's a community, and we try to all be there for each other instead of the internet's a really good place to like knock people down. It seems like there's a lot
unfortunately,
of that. And this in having like a community, a music community is great. And also another thing is like with the Facebook algorithms and things, a band's personal page in these days, it's really hard to get the traffic there. It's almost like I don't quite know how it works, but I can see it because when I post one certain thing, all like there's way more than other, and I'm like, why isn't there just all these? Like, why aren't the likes like equal? And then you look on something like Instagram where all the likes are more realistically close together, whereas Facebook it's gaps. There's full on gaps, so you know people aren't seeing it in their feed. So Instagram, they are, you know, it's a different thing because you get to see, you're like, okay, well, 500 people like this shitty post, 1,000 like this one, this is not that much. Facebook, it's like there's 1,000 and then there's 13.
Yeah, it just does some. It's crazy sometimes how it kind of just drops.
So in the fan club page, Francis asked the fan club what song they would want him to cover, and people already know Francis over there because again, anybody that follows me has obviously seen that I did the King Gorm vinyl, and that I promote Old Man Wizard, that sorcery record. A lot, and I'm a fan of Francis. So they voted, and Francis, he did. It was wonderful, man. He did such a good job on it that it's pretty humbling experience to have somebody put that much effort into doing something that you wrote. I was like, wow, you did like a full video, and really. He gave it like a lot of life. I was really, it just shows me how much like I actually do love Francis. Like he's a good friend, and maybe I should cover one of his songs for him to be like, let me cover this. But I honestly think I couldn't do him justice. So unfortunately, he's better than I am because he like brought a whole new like. It made me realize like my songs could be completely taken in a different way, and use a whole other light. And I really did enjoy that. It was super cool to hear it play like in a different genre. You know what I mean?
Completely. Even I was very surprised how much I enjoyed it. I mean, I don't really enjoy the dungeon synth and all of that much. So I was kind of surprised how much it did.
Yeah. So obviously I was like, Francis, you should just do a full haunt album of covers, man. That might be something.
Yeah, that'd be seriously
fun. Because like, why not? I'm actually going to talk to him about that. I think we should maybe do that on this next album that I'm doing. Is simultaneous, like maybe like on the CD version or something. Have the album like Francis has redone the album.
But so you get like two versions.
You have two versions.
Yeah,
that'd be weird. Nobody's ever done that. You always got to think, has somebody ever done that before? And it might be a really bad idea. And logistically, it already sounds like a nightmare to me. But it sounds like again, like I'm the type of person. A good challenge is always accepted, and that would be interesting. Because again, I don't know if I would like that style that Francis is doing. I don't know if I really listen to a lot of music that way. Like you just like this dungeon synth and stuff like that. It's something I don't know. And I don't have any experience with, and he does, I guess, but does it in a different way, man. I don't know.
It could be an interesting experiment, but hey, if it does happen, you heard it first here on the Horns Up podcast.
You came up with it. I would have never. We would have never even have gone there if we weren't talking about Francis.
Awesome.
Like, seriously.
So one of the things I also wanted to touch upon is soon after. I mean, actually, it was just before we had a chat last time, is you became a father, and you talked about that entire experience, how it kind of changed you, and how is is it kind of affected your music or had an impact on your music in the last couple of years?
I mean, if it did, it's only in a positive way because I'm working way harder at it now than ever before. And
Yeah.
writing, again, like I just want Rex to know that, having the passion for something like music, like you just have to follow your dreams and your visions of things of what you want to do and accomplish in your life. And I want him to see me accomplish things that I set out to do. And who knows if he'll like Haunt? I don't know. It's that could be. Oh, maybe he doesn't. Whatever. But to be able to tell him, like, son, finish what you started. Like always, if you got this dream of something that's a little bit out of the norm, because I mean, a lot of people want to be a musician, but how many people follow through with it and do all of the steps that have to be taken?
Yeah,
Not
that's true.
everybody really goes the full mile. And it took me a lifetime to even get, I haven't even gone the mile. I feel like I'm like, well, I've got some fans and they seem to like my music and stuff, but like, I don't have a Ferrari and I don't live in Malibu. So,
Yeah.
I can only say this to him. I got to end up, I can make a living off of it doing what I love, and I'm home to be around him. And, like, I just, it's weird too. I write songs everywhere I go. You keep a guitar in every room and you're going to end up writing something eventually. And like when I'm watching him sometimes, he's just sitting there, I'm like, he's playing. He doesn't have any interest in me. I just grab the guitar, noodle around, and I write tons of riffs that way. A lot of them.
That's cool.
I wrote Flashback that way. It's like, I was writing Mind Freeze when my wife was pregnant, and then Flashback was recorded when he was, he was already home with us for quite some time. And he's actually on Beautiful Distraction at the very end. I captured his little voice a little bit, and it's at the end of the album. He isn't saying anything yet. He was very little when I captured it, because I recorded Flashback and Beautiful Distraction so close together. He was only like, I don't even know. He wasn't even a year yet, but he's almost 2 now. He'll be 2 in July. Being a dad is the best thing in the world. I love my son so much. I can't even live without him. Let's just put it that way. Like, I think about that. I'm like, I can't even live without this dude. Like, this dude has made life worth living, like, way more. So now it's like, it's driven my music more because now I have so much more purpose. Yeah. Like before I had like a really like kind of like, all right, well, here's this goal, whatever, but now I'm like, I got this kid, I got a beautiful baby boy and I love him, and I got a family, and music's great. Music is driving it. And that's all I could really say about that.
Okay. So another thing that you touched upon at the start was, church recordings, right? I mean, in January, you released the Saber Without Warning album.
Yeah.
And now you've got Beautiful
I played on that album. I'm the drummer on that.
Yeah. Actually, I noticed that also. But do you have any more releases planned in the coming months?
No, I'm kind of honestly, I'll tell you, I'm stepping back from a lot of that, mainly because of the manufacturing time due to COVID right now is like kind of all over the place, and I just don't feel like dealing with it. And it sucks because like I'd love to, but I'm gonna pick back up when things kind of seem to get a little bit back to a way where you could get things in a timely manner and not have to wait a year. It's hard. I'm busy with my music, but I did do an album. It'll be out on Shadow Kingdom. I did an album with a band called Devil Cross. It's called the project. and it's myself and Joe Steele from Ice War, and I can't remember his last name. His name's Brendan, is the guitar player. I'm sorry, Brendan. I don't know. I never met him. It's all internet based. It was getting we were sending files to each other, never even a handshake. And me and Joe are really close. He's a good friend. We talk all the time. But this other dude, he doesn't even have Facebook. So I'm like, dude, I can't even like look this dude's profile up. He's like anti-social media, but he's a great guitar player. But anyway, that'll be out. So nothing. I did do a Traveler cassette, but the Traveler record is already out. They didn't have any self-titled records, and I was kind of like, hey, I want to do a cassette run of your guys' stuff for fun. And they're like, cool. So that's real small though, and again, like, it's already been out before, so it's not new news. But grab one if you're into cassettes and want to get a cassette of Traveler self-titled, because man, they were sold out of cassettes for a while, because I kept looking for one. I was like, they don't exist anywhere. I can't get a fucking Traveler cassette. And I'm starting to like cassettes more than vinyl, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's been a revival of sorts, and I see a lot of bands now releasing cassettes. The only problem is I don't know who still has cassette players.
Dude, everywhere. You could buy a cassette player like anywhere. The thing about cassettes, I think it's like the generation that I come from. I was born in 1981. Cassettes were still prominent like for a long time. I didn't really start buying CDs until I was like 18.
Same
here. And I remember mainly because the cars didn't have CD players yet.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I need, again, cars where I listen to it. So that's where my tape collection lived, was in my car, which is terrible. You get melted tapes, you had to put them under your seat.
Oh god, those
now
are
you
terrible.
don't have to worry about that shit.
Yeah, but those are terrible.
I used to put all the cassettes. I'd have it in the case. I put it in there. I go, god damn it! And I live where it's hot, man. It's fucking hot here. It'll melt your cassette. But anyway, I am putting out another record. It'll be out in February 2022.
Okay, awesome. So you mentioned a goal of 20 albums by 47.
Yeah.
So what can we expect from Haunt, say, in the next coming months at least?
Again, you're gonna the next release will be in February. I'm just gonna probably do a couple albums a year, and some of them actually, it's weird that we were talking about Francis and the synth stuff, because some of those albums might actually be this, like, for instance, Mind Freeze. I'm going to be doing this. I'll just share it right now, because this is news in some way. But you could remove all of the guitar from Mind Freeze, and now you have like a synth album, because there's all this orchestration behind it that's kind of hard to hear because of the guitar.
Yeah.
So if you remove the guitar, and you could listen to the album and only synth, and I already had it set up that way. So it's not quite dungeon synth like what Francis does. It's like Haunt. It's the song, the tempo, it is the way it's sang, but stripped. And now instead of guitars up front, the synth sits up front.
Okay.
So a few of the albums might be that way. It's hard to say how many new, I'm just talking 20 collectively.
Yeah.
Altogether, 20 albums of stuff. And I'll probably make more than that, but it'll slow down, because I want, like I said, I told you earlier, there's a role I want to take, a different path, and that's producer.
Yeah.
I want to produce bands. I think it's important to kind of take my knowledge of music and songwriting and all that, and help bands move along. You know what I mean? I did that with Saber. You could ask them. Without me, they wouldn't have Without Warning.
Yeah, I actually read up an interview they did, and they talked about how you kind of joined them on drums because of the issue that they had with their previous drummer.
They didn't even have a drummer. They had a drum. Initially, they didn't have a drummer. Then they had a drummer, and he was not really, I don't know, he wasn't what they wanted to work with. And he left, and I was like, well, let me hear what you guys got. And they sent me a bunch of really bad production stuff, that like incomplete songs. They couldn't even tell what they were going to do. So I made them do some pre-production, and I drummed over it. And then they came here and stayed with me for a week and recorded a record. And that was kind of, there's been a couple times where I've done these things. So the first band was Fortress, was the first band I recorded. That wasn't myself. And then I did this band called, like, God damn it, I can't think of their name right now. Parasite VC.
Okay.
Parasite VC. No, I did them. And then the next one, like I said, was Oath, and that was a little bit different too. I did, because he wasn't here. I produced him overseas.
Yeah, he's based out of the UK. I played
drums on that too. So that's another area where I kind of came in as a producer. So I've been kind of trying to groom myself for that slowly, you know. It's not that I want to step away from Haunt. It's that I think by the time I get to that point, there's not much more for me to say.
All right.
I mean, 20 albums is a lot.
Yeah.
Most bands never get there, ever. They won't.
True.
I mean, so I probably will if I don't die before. Awesome. You know what I mean? I'm not planning on dying, but I'm just saying, yeah, I could get struck by lightning, you know? So as long as I'm living and breathing, that goal will happen. Because Haunt is my last band. I mean, I'm just getting too old to start over or go in a garage with a bunch of dudes. It doesn't interest me. And when I started doing Haunt, I had the idea of I'm not going to be held back by genre titles like how Beastmaker was, like really in doom metal. I was like, so when I start writing Haunt, I was like, it's going to be all over the place. And it kind of is. I got fast songs, dancey songs, thrashy songs. It's kind of everywhere. I got poppy songs. I just write whatever I feel like writing. But yeah.
All right. So just a couple questions more for you.
Sure.
I saw that you announced on social media that you've added 2 new members, Andy Saldate, who was in Beastmaker with you, and also Andy Lee.
Yes.
Have you been working in the studio with them, or is it just going to be a live?
We rehearse in the studio, but we don't work together in the studio. That's already kind of known. It's kind of already known with them that, like, you know, we're not going to be really working in the studio together, because we're not going to learn. Nobody's going to be able to learn all the songs that I'm doing, because I'm going to be doing 2 albums a year. It's just like, it's going to be real busy for me, and I can't really work around other people's when they can be here or whatever. And I just don't think of my songs as that hard to where I need help. Like, to be honest with you, it's like, to me, that's easy. So
fair enough.
And also it's a little bit different format, because Andy, the drummer, Andy Saldati, he's kind of taking a different kind of role in Haunt. He's like going to be the team leader, because he's like my best friend. We did Beastmaker together. Yeah. We've actually been trying to do music together in Fresno for about 16 years together. And Haunt was the first time I'd ever been away from him musically, ever. Most of my life playing music was with him. So it was only really natural for him to come in. I was waiting for it to happen, truly. I had asked him initially, and he didn't want to do it at first, because he wanted to try to do some other stuff and maybe do some other genre of music and see what some other artists in Fresno had. And then he came back to me and was like, dude, there ain't anybody as good as you in Fresno. Let's do it. That's how he got back into Haunt. That's how he got into Haunt. Like, he's like, let's fucking do it. And I had, and it's, dude, trust me, I had been pestering him for the whole time. Since 2018, I've been, Andy, dude, like, he's like, nah. And then he was friends with Wolfie too, my old drummer, and that made it real like way harder because he's like, I don't want to. And you know, we all kind of knew each other. Wolfie was Beastmaker's merch guy, so it was like a weird thing, and we just didn't work together well on certain things. We played together well and listened to music together, and we had a good friendship. But like the way that I am and the way that I want things, I need people to be a certain way. He just wasn't like what Andy is. Like I said, Andy is gonna be like the team leader of the band and keep the bass player and the other guitar player, keep things like harmonious, because obviously shit went out of control and my whole last live lineup is gone.
Yeah.
They're just gone. Two quit. So it just wasn't working the format that I was doing. And I needed somebody like Andy to like anchor it in, and because it's just too weird. I'm just like too busy and focused on doing what I'm doing, which is like recording albums, interacting with fans, making sure that the band is getting exposure and there's some growth. You know what I mean? Like those things. So I'm really excited. And he brought Andy Lee to the table as well. They worked together at Guitar Center. And
okay. That's cool.
So Andy Lee, I didn't even really know how good of a guitar player he was when Andy Soldati told me, he's like, we should try out Andy Lee, send him the stuff. So I sent Andy Lee the stuff, and I know him, and we were already friends. So I was like, really looking forward to like checking you out, man. Be great. And we didn't hear back from him for a while. He didn't get back to us for like 3 weeks. So I thought he was just like not ever gonna audition. And he just came through, and like we nearly played an entire set first try, which I thought was like impressive. I was like, this is the first time we've ever played music, and we could have played this live right now. Like we got from point A to point B on every song we played. And he learned some of the solos too, which I was just like, all right, well, let's work on it. And so we've been at it for the last couple months. I mean, me and Andy Soldati, we've been working on it together since way earlier on in the pandemic, like November of last year.
Okay.
We started getting together, and we were just doing like once a week, he and I, for 2 hours. Like because like we knew there was no shows were gonna happen. Like we're just like, let's just start like kind of feeling each other out. We hadn't played music together in 2 years. I mean, it was really weird. You know, here I come from a side where he's the only dude I was in bands with, really.
Yeah.
To being a dude that I wasn't in my band and I'm still doing it. Now he is in my band again. So we kind of had to like, we had to rekindle that old flame of playing together and the vibe and like what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, and he's going to bring Haunt to life in a lot of ways that it wasn't before. I could just say that like without a doubt, because he's like an influential person to me. He's an influencer, like takes good care of himself, and you know, he's hardworking. And so I look up to people that are like that.
Awesome.
You know, and Andy Lee, great guitar player. We still don't have a bass player, but if anybody ever knew what Fresno was like in India, it's not a very musical place. It's hard. There's like we have scoured. We are trying so hard. There's bass players I could hire, of course, just for the tour or whatnot. And again, we actually have learned to play live. Like I don't have a keyboard player, and Haunt has this like new, like since Mind Freeze, the sound with synthesizer to the music. And with the last lineup, I tried to get the drummer on board on trying to, you know, have it play the keyboards were in the backing tracks. Like we just press play to the keyboards and we played to that. And he wasn't able to do that. And it really caused some, you know, I bought all the equipment needed to do it, learned how to do it myself so I could teach him to do it. And we just weren't getting it. And I was like, we're never going to find a keyboard player in Fresno. There's no one. There's no heavy metal keyboard player anywhere that I know of. Francis, that's it. He's so far away. He's 8 hours away from me. He's not close by, so he can't. Again, it's somebody that can't really be here, and you gotta rehearse as a band. I would love Francis. We've talked about it. I'm like, move to Fresno, play fucking keyboards and haunt, dude. Get the fuck out of San Diego. Yeah. But that's not how life works. So so Andy has learned how to. We're able to play all the music with synth now, which has never been done before in haunt. So it's really exciting for me because it's going to be the first time live that the crowd gets to experience hearing like Mind Freeze with all the synthesizer.
Yeah,
and there's so much synth in Mind Freeze. I'm like, how are we even doing it without it? Like, this is shit. I was pissed. I didn't like that. It was one of the main reasons the drummer's gone. I actually fired Wolfie. And that was definitely part of it, is he didn't fucking step up to a leading position and take control of it like he should have and learned how to do it. He was really reluctant on me to do it for him and learn it for him. And that's not how you learn how to do something.
Yeah.
You learn how to do something by doing it yourself and fucking up over and over and over again. But with that said, we added the bass guitar to the backing track. So like when we practice in here for the live thing, we have bass right now. So it's kind of like, we're like, yeah, whatever. When the right one comes, the right one comes. Cause like right now we got a good team going again. Like it's crazy because I had a good team before and I've had to rebuild a new team. It's like I'm the Chicago Bulls or something. I'm like the fucking coach. I'm like, oh, you got to bring, you're the general manager. The general manager's like, oh, we got to switch out players or whatever. I'm like the fucking general manager now. But I got Andy, who's a great team leader. And then, and then Andy Lee too, they've worked together. So I'm lucky. I was able to get a good live lineups right out the gate before we come back out of this pandemic and start playing live again.
Yeah. Which actually brings me to my last question.
That's all I have to say about the announcement.
Right.
Okay.
So, which brings me to my last question about live gigs, because I just got an email about Void Waiter. A band that you've played live with. They're doing an album launch in a week or 10 days, I think. Is that something you're looking at playing now that you have a lineup going live soon?
No, not very soon. So in April, there's going to be a tour in 2022. Okay. That's the first, it is booked, it's happening, it's routed. There's a festival anchored in it, and it's in Houston, Houston, Texas. So we're gonna be going around. I don't want to say who the bands are yet, but you'll like if you listen to Haunt, you'll like these bands. They're in the same realm, and they're great. So that's the first tour that's booked. I'm not really I have a different life than a lot of people. I'm a dad. I have a family. So I'm not trying to just go out there immediately. It has to make sense. And that's the first thing that made sense to me. Now, if something comes along this year, it's just weird because it's April and generally a tour is booked 6 months out. So realistically, the only thing that I would be looking at if there was going to be a tour would probably be in November or the winter. So we're getting closer to 2022 again. So I mean, I didn't know are they doing a tour or just a show?
It's just the album release show they're doing in LA.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's cool. I'll probably end up playing some one-off shows. I don't want to do a lot of one-off shows because it takes a lot of energy to do that. I think it's just better to tour. Just doing one show, packing up all your shit and going and playing one gig and then coming home immediately and unpacking it. That doesn't make sense to me. It's a lot of extra shit. It's pack up your shit and then go and then come home and you're done. You know what I mean? That's kind of been my formula for a long time. So like I usually, when we do like a one-off show, I call it, we usually add about 5 shows to that are around that general area, because it's like I said, like packing up all your shit, you're packing up your merch, you're packing up all your gear just for one night is rough. But a CD release, yeah, I mean, it's that Void Vader's on the money with that. Like if they're gonna do it, I don't know how many people are gonna come out to it. I mean, I don't know how if everybody's ready for that. I really honestly don't know, because I haven't gone to anything. I've been just at home. It's like just like everybody else. Like,
yeah, I'm not sure exactly on the regulations and all. I haven't checked that as yet, but yeah,
I know one thing for certain. I can tell you that June 15th, California is open. Yeah. And I think here will be all right, because a lot of people are already vaccinated. The vaccine is easy to get here. If you're 16 and above, you can get the vaccine in California right now. So, yeah. I mean, and they're testing it on teenagers now and stuff, and younger people. So as soon as that all kind of happens, I mean, we're going to hit, it needs to happen globally. I mean, it's really weird how government and pharmaceutical companies work, and who owns all these patents to things, and who gets the they get the first drugs, and they can't surplus it without permission from the drug company, and yada yada yada. It's really
I think this will be like a whole separate podcast episode itself.
Oh yeah. But anyway, I think that we'll be seeing some shows from Haunt this year. They'll probably just be local though, Fresno, maybe Sacramento, just to see what it's like. San Diego, just to get out there and test the water. I definitely want to play some shows before I go hit a festival and I got to break in the new band. It's like a new car.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of baby it for that first 1,000 miles on that engine. You don't want to it tells you that shit in owner's manuals. It's like, brand new car, 1,000 miles. Don't do this. Don't fucking. There's things it tells you not to do while breaking in a motor. Yeah. So it's like I got to go out and break. I got to break in the motor a little bit and feel it out and stuff. The first Haunt gigs ever were horrible. Like when we first, oh my God, I was embarrassed, because I was coming out of a tenure of Beastmaker where we were well rehearsed, solid, been touring all over the place, to a new band with new guys and new shit, and it was a mess. First show was awful. So I'm just anticipating, I don't think it's going to be like that, because this is much more well rehearsed now and things are more put together. But I still think we all got to get out there and get all our nerves out that, we're playing together for the first time, even in a band that's already existed. So it's kind of a weird one. Yeah. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that, really, about live stuff.
Awesome. So I think we've chatted quite a bit, and thanks so much again, as always.
No problem.
Trevor, it's a pleasure talking to you, just kind of understanding. I mean, that's the main reason why we started the podcast, right? Is just to talk to musicians whose music we enjoy and get to know the whole process and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love podcasts. I think I listen to a lot of them, and I because I don't like radio, and TV is pretty shitty. And again, when it's something I enjoy to do in the car. Put that shit on and just listen. Because sometimes, it's like, there's time and place for everything, and the stream works really good in the car.
All right. So look forward to hearing more from Haunt, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye out. Thanks so much again, Trevor.
All right, man. It's good talking to you, buddy. Good luck with everything, and thank you for the support.
All right. So the question for all our listeners this week is, if you had a chance to select the songs on a band's album, which band would it be? Let us know. As always, you can reach out to us, hornsuppod.com, and we're also on Twitter as hornsuppod. I'm at Trend Crusher on Twitter and Instagram. But that's all for this week. Until next time, horns up, guys.